So what's it like to own one of the most anticipated smartphones of the year? We found out this week when we tested the new Galaxy S5 from Samsung. We were particularly curious because we put its predecessor, the S4, through the paces last year. A review and several smartphone camera shootouts later, we bestowed upon the S4 the title of Best All-Around Smartphone of 2013. So, is the S5 significantly better? What makes this phone different? And what's it like compared to other flagship smartphones released so far this year? Let's be honest, looks matter. And while we had high hopes that the S5 would look and feel different, we are left with pretty much a reminder of the Galaxy S of generations past. Lie it down face up on a table, and you'll hardly notice a difference. The screen got bigger, the phone got slightly taller and wider, but overall, the phone looks pretty much like it was stuck in 2012. Samsung is sticking to its tried and tested formula, which isn't so much of a problem. But if you're a techie looking for the rush you get with a new phone, you're not going to get it from this one. Flip it over and you get a more premium leather-like backplate with a perforated pattern. The faux leather feels good, gives you a nice comfortable grip, and resolves our complaint about the cheap plasticky feel of the S4. While not a piece of art like the iPhone 5S or the new HTC One, for all it's worth, the S5 feels more like the premium device that it is. A few notes on the design before we move on. The sides of the S5 are grooved, and tucked into its top right corner is the power button. Same spot, but a bit tougher to get to than usual. Speakers are located on the back of the phone, which isn't a deal breaker, but design-wise, it makes more sense to have speakers on the front of the device, like the HTC One. That way you can watch a movie while the phone is lying flat on a table. Also on its back, underneath the S5's camera, is a built-in heart rate monitor, which works with a bundled S-Health fitness tracking app. The feature is cool to have, and the S5 is the only smartphone with HRM built in, but to be honest, is a feature we don't think anyone will really use. While Google is trying to tell us that physical home buttons are a thing of the past, Samsung, like Apple, is keeping it alive by giving it a new purpose: a fingerprint scanner for unlocking the phone and validating online purchases. On top of the device is an IR blaster that turns the phone into a TV remote control. And on its bottom, a port cover for the micro USB port. The port cover enables one of the major features of the S5. The phone is water resistant and will survive being submerged in depths as low as 1 meter for about 30 minutes. We weren't one to let this feature go untested. Before you try this at home, make sure the port cover and the phone's removable back plate, which has built-in rubber stoppers, is sealed shut. The S5 survived our afternoon at the pool. While the display won't work when underwater, you can take photos using the phone's volume rocker as a makeshift camera button. Here's some of the photos we shot. Speaking of photos, the camera is supposedly one of the S5's best features. We have high hopes considering the S4 won several of our smartphone camera shootouts last year. The S5 has more megapixels, 16 versus 13, and a larger 1/2.6-inch imaging sensor. Several key features are worth noting. The S5 claims to have the fastest autofocus on a smartphone today, with a hybrid of phase detection and contrast detection autofocus, a feature available on high-end compact cameras and DSLRs. Fast autofocus will come in handy when shooting a moving subject like a baby or a pet. Live HDR lets you see how your shot will look in HDR mode before you've even taken the photo. And Focus Select allows you to change focus points after a photo has been taken. Overall, we're pretty happy with the shots using the main camera, even in low light. But we couldn't say the same about its wide-angled selfie camera that struggled in low light. This year marks the first batch of smartphones that run custom implementations of Google's new operating system, KitKat. Samsung's updated TouchWiz isn't significantly different from its Jelly Bean UI. Most noticeable is a new settings menu with colorful circles with the new flat design trend. We like the splash of color, but the settings menu has never been so difficult to wade through. But thankfully, Samsung has built in S-Finder, previously only available via Air Command on the Galaxy Note 3, into the drop-down notification center. S-Finder allows you to search your phone for apps, files, and luckily, even settings sub-menus. A swipe to the right from the home screen brings up a new feature Samsung is calling My Magazine. Based on Flipboard, My Magazine pulls out a list of stories based on topics you subscribe to and what's new on your social network of choice. It only pulls out one item per source. In the week we had the phone, we found this feature useless and would much rather have had Google Now like on stock Android. Speaking of Google Now, thankfully, as long as the Google search widget is on your front screen, you get the same active listening functionality as the Nexus 5, where you can just speak out, "OK Google," to access a range of search queries and common tasks. "OK Google, who is Michael Christian Martinez?"
According to Wikipedia, Michael Christian Martinez is a Filipino figure skater.
As a Nexus user, I couldn't be more thankful that Samsung decided to include this feature. Google Now is leaps and bounds better than Samsung's S Voice, which is another feature you'll never use. What is 500 Philippine pesos in US dollars?
$500 Philippine pesos equals 11.123 US dollars.
Google search what is 500 Philippine pesos in US dollars.
Our favorite software feature is a feature called Ultra Power Saving Mode, which turns your phone black and white with limited functionality, but allows you to keep either data or Wi-Fi on and gives you access to apps like Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Line. Turned on at 16%, you got an extra 2 days of functionality. With heavy use, the phone's 2,800 mAh battery lasted a full 7 hours. Not bad for a phone this powerful. Like the rest of the top-of-the-line smartphones released this year, the S5 runs on a Snapdragon 800 quad-core processor and 2 GB of RAM, enough to take the most power-hungry and processor-intensive apps. You're not going to run into hiccups whatever the task. But you can say the same thing about the HTC One M8, the Sony Xperia Z2, and last year's LG G2 and Nexus 5. If you're an S3 user, now is the time to upgrade. S4 users might want to hold off till next year. If you don't need the best camera and would love to save as much as you can, get the Nexus 5. But if you're looking for the best phone the market has to offer so far, get the S5, which, when seen as a whole, looks like it'll end the year ahead of the pack. In this hyper-competitive smartphone market, the S5's fingerprint scanner, water resistance, and its superb camera make it worth the purchase. The latter is where it really innovated this year. Otherwise, Samsung merely caught up, bringing the headline features of the Xperia and the iPhone into one package. Now that the S5 has it all, hopefully next year it can finally bring us a phone that blows us away.